This woman married a wealthy and handsome Seo, driven by a secret she could never reveal. Outsiders envied her for marrying into a rich family, but only she knew this marriage was her personal hell. On their wedding night, her husband whispered coldly in her ear, "This is just a contract that I will never love you." After that, Xiao put on the mask of a perfect wife in front of others, while secretly counting down the days until she could leave. One day, after returning from a business trip, she received a text from Li Jingyan the moment she landed. "Be at the family estate by 7. We'll go home together." By the time she arrived, he had already been waiting. Xiao hurried to explain the reason for her delay. But Li Jingyan suddenly pulled her into his arms. "Since you want to be my wife, then play your role well." She was puzzled by his strange behavior, until she noticed the estate's door slightly ajar, and realized he was putting on a show. From inside came her mother-in-law's voice, "Xiao, you're back? Come in quickly." Xiao instantly clutched Li Jingyan's arm and walked inside with him. Yet he sneered, "Your smile looks awful, that if you don't want to smile, then don't." Xiao pinched him backhanded, shutting him up on the spot. In front of their parents, they always kept up the act of being a loving couple. Especially her mother-in-law, Su Jiechi, she was the only one who gave Xiao a sense of warmth. But as soon as they stepped inside, her father-in-law slammed a magazine on the table. "Li Jingyan, look at the mess you've made." Splashed across the cover was his scandal with a famous actress. Instead of explaining, Li Jingyan shamelessly pushed all the blame onto Xiao. After scolding his son, the father-in-law turned to Xiao. "As Li Jingyan's wife, why haven't you had a child yet? 2 years of marriage and no child. Once there's a baby, he'll settle down." Xiao confidently defended him. "What he does outside is just for show. In his heart, I'm the only one." Li Jingyan played along, adding, "I'll go with whatever she says." Their flawless teamwork made Su Jiechi, the ultimate CP fan, beam with joy. She insisted they stay at the family estate for a few more days. But the real awkwardness came that night. In Li Jingyan's bedroom, Xiao was blow-drying her hair when he walked in. She quickly set the rule, "I'll take the bed, you sleep on the couch." Yet Li Jingyan refused, stubbornly lying on the bed no matter how hard she tried to pull him up. He even yanked her onto the bed and teased, "Since neither of us wants the couch, why not share the bed?" The next second, Xiao kicked him flying. But they forgot this was the family estate. When Su Jiechi came by to check on them, the two scrambled under the covers, pretending to sleep together. Su Jiechi even worried she might have interrupted the couple's good moment. The next morning at breakfast, her father-in-law once again brought up the scandal, sternly demanding that Li Jingyan move back to the villa with Xiao. To everyone's surprise, he acted unusually fast. He stood up without a word, ready to move in. Xiao was so shocked she left her breakfast unfinished and quickly chased after him. Something felt off. Li Jingyan noticed her nervous reaction and instantly suspected there was a secret hidden at her place. Sure enough, when he opened the door, all of his belongings had been shoved into the storage room. He shot Xiao a cold glance and warned, "Before you finish your shower, everything better be back where it belongs." Strangely enough, the thought of living under the same roof filled him with a sense of anticipation. After his shower, Li Jingyan thought Xiao was making dinner. But when he walked over, he found her preparing instant noodles. He grabbed her hand firmly. "I don't eat instant noodles. Cook for me." Xiao sighed helplessly. "Even the best cook can't make a meal without ingredients. There's nothing in the kitchen." Seeing his stubborn insistence, Xiao had no choice but to head out and buy some groceries. Not long after Xiao left, the actress who had always dreamed of replacing her barged in. She threw herself into Li Jingyan's arms, but he pushed her away instantly. He refused to betray his wife. Yet the moment he heard Xiao returning, he suddenly pulled the woman back into his embrace. Curious about the half-closed door, Xiao pushed it open, only to see her husband kissing another woman. She chose to ignore the scene and walked straight toward the kitchen. Acting as if nothing had happened, Li Jingyan said, "Why are you so late? I'm starving here." Xiao didn't answer. Her eyes fell on her work report, which had clearly been tampered with. Just as she reached for it, the mistress pressed her hand down and mocked, "You're just the maid. How dare you touch the master's documents?" Li Jingyan snapped coldly, "You're mistaken. She's my wife." The mistress, unfazed, threw herself into his arms again and cooed, "Then let me stay with you tonight, okay? But you'll have to ask your wife first." Shirxiao finally lost her patience. Li Jingyan, what exactly are you trying to do? If you don't care, then why bother asking my opinion? She added coldly, when the time comes I'll leave on my own. If this young lady wishes to stay, please be quick about it. I'm a light sleeper. Li Jingyan stared at Shirxiao in disbelief. You really don't mind me bringing another woman home? Shirxiao didn't answer. Her eyes brimmed with grievance and defiance before she turned away. It's your freedom, isn't it? You told me never to interfere. He hadn't expected her to be so indifferent. Meanwhile, the other woman still shamelessly hinted she wanted to stay the night. Li Jingyan shot her a murderous glare and barked, "Get out!" Left alone, he stood outside Shirxiao's room, lost in thought. For 2 years, scandal after scandal, and she never reacted once. Does this woman truly not care at all? Or does she really feel nothing for me? Pushing open the door, he found Shirxiao sitting at her vanity, frowning over the report that had been tampered with. He quietly walked up behind her and suddenly wrapped his arms around her. Shirxiao's face flushed crimson. Your hair's still wet. Blasting the AC like this will make you sick. Confronted with his sudden concern, Shirxiao's heartbeat quickened uncontrollably. Taking advantage of her daze, Li Jingyan leaned close to her ear and whispered, "Wife, I really love your hair, so let's sleep together tonight." Shirxiao instantly refused. No way. But he feigned grievance. My AC is broken. I end this heat. Are you really going to let your husband roast alive? With no other choice, Shirxiao reluctantly gave in, though she deliberately kept a safe distance between them. Just as Shirxiao was hesitating whether to ask about the altered report, Li Jingyan suddenly pulled her into his arms again. Startled, she quickly pushed him away with her arm and brought up the report to deflect the moment. Seeing through her little trick, Li Jingyan smirked. Let me hold you tonight, and tomorrow I'll tell you the truth about the report. Instantly, the room's atmosphere grew heated. The next day, Shirxiao received a message from her mother-in-law, asking her to remind Li Jingyan to eat on time. Though she was completely unwilling, she still showed up at his company to keep up the role of a dutiful daughter-in-law. As she knocked, she overheard him instructing his staff, "I'll skip lunch today, too much work." But when he saw it was Shirxiao, he froze for a moment, surprised and secretly pleased that she had come to see him. He hurriedly praised her as a virtuous wife who cared enough to bring him food. But the moment he noticed the words, "takeout delivery" on the package, his excitement vanished. Shirxiao waved it off. What can I do? You know how busy I am. Coming here at all is already a stretch. What she didn't expect was that his office was fully equipped, even with a small kitchen. Clearly, he intended for her to cook for him herself. But Shirxiao had no time to play house. She set the takeout down and turned to leave immediately. Just as she stepped out, Shirxiao ran into Lu Xinlin, who exclaimed in surprise, "Madam Li, what are you doing at the company?" Shirxiao frowned at the tone and shot back, "I came to see my husband. Miss Lu, as far as I know, you don't have any relatives working at Li Corporation." That shut Lu Xinlin up for a moment. Then she tore off the mask and sneered, "What are you so proud of? Li Jingyan doesn't even like you. You may be Madam Li, but you're nothing more than a stand-in, a usurper in another woman's place." Before she could finish, Li Jingyan suddenly appeared behind her and barked coldly, "Shut up." Lu Xinlin wanted to complain, but his sharp glare silenced her. She convinced herself he was only being discreet in public and still favored her deep down. But the next second, Li Jingyan strode over, wrapped an arm around Shirxiao's waist and declared, "Madam Li will always be Shirxiao, she's my only woman." With that, he pulled Shirxiao back into the office and ordered his secretary, "Never let this woman in again." Watching him obediently eat, Shirxiao couldn't help but mutter, "Did you lose your memory? Just the other day you flaunted another woman at home. Now over one meal you're throwing such a fit?" Yet for some reason his words lingered with her, leaving her in a good mood the entire afternoon. Especially when she remembered him saying, "Wait for me at home tonight." For the first time it almost felt like they were a real couple. On a sudden whim, she even tidied up the house, only to find a shattered picture frame in the study. Worried Li Jingyan might cut his hand, she crouched down to carefully pick up the shards. When Li Jingyan came home and saw Shirxiao busily tidying up, he couldn't resist wrapping his arms around her from behind. For a fleeting moment, they looked like a truly loving couple. But the warmth lasted less than 3 minutes that he suddenly rushed forward, demanding, "Did you see the photo on my desk?" Xiao remembered the shattered frame she had thrown out. Just as she tried to explain, he gripped her shoulders tightly. Yes, that one. Where is it? Xiao answered. It was broken, so I threw it away. His tone flipped instantly, sharp and furious. That photo is very important to me. How dare you throw it out? With that, he shoved her hard, warning her never to touch his things again. Xiao staggered backward, crashing into the cabinet. Whose photo could possibly matter so much that he didn't even glance at her bleeding arm? Xiao rushed to the trash and dug out the discarded picture. When she saw the woman in the photo, a bitter smile crept across her lips. So it was her. No wonder. To him, she's the cinnabar mole that will never fade. Tears streamed down as Xiao broke into sobs. So his heart never had a place for me. The next morning, she returned the photo to Li Jingyan and quietly apologized. I'm sorry that I won't touch your things again. This time I overstepped. From now on, let's stick to the contract. No interfering in each other's lives. Back in her room, Xiao immediately called her best friend. They agreed to meet at their usual spot after work the next day. The next evening, Xiao arrived early at their usual meeting spot to wait for Wuyo. Wuyo immediately noticed the wound on her forehead. Xiao casually explained that she had splashed herself with oil while cooking. But Wuyo wasn't convinced. Be honest, was it that man? No one else could hurt you like this except him. Xiao stopped hiding and replied calmly, You're right. Wuyo, you always understand me best. Wuyo quickly tried to comfort her. Poor Xia, is the wine not sweet enough? Are the ribs not tasty enough? Forget about that bastard already. Xiao leaned gently against Wuyo's shoulder. Her heart was tangled with emotions as she whispered, Wuyo, thank you for always being by my side. Don't worry, I was never part of his world. Just one more year and I'll finally leave him for good. Just then, Xiao's assistant called in a panic. Director Shi, bad news. Someone's about to jump from the company rooftop. Upon hearing this, Xiao rushed to the scene immediately, where her assistant was already waiting downstairs. The assistant quickly reported, Director, her name is Wu Jie. She claims our product ruined her face. She's still up on the rooftop and could jump at any moment. Xiao made a snap decision to go up herself and talk her down. For someone with acrophobia, it was a terrifying challenge. She even entrusted her affairs to Wuyo just in case. On the rooftop, the woman's emotions were wildly unstable. At the same time, Xiao received her file. Her name was Wu Jie, once a famous actress. After getting married, she had left the entertainment industry completely. But now her husband had another woman outside, and with her looks ruined, he had cruelly abandoned her. Xiao spoke gently and earnestly, trying to persuade Wu Jie to give up on suicide. Wu Jie broke down in tears. So the whole world knows he cheated. He promised he'd love me forever. But now, just because I'm scarred, he's fooling around with other women. What am I supposed to do? Xiao let out a sigh of relief and spoke gently. If you're willing to trust me, I can help you restore your looks. I've carefully reviewed your skin test report. There's absolutely nothing wrong. Will you really give up on yourself like this? Abandon the man who's stood by you for 5 years and hand everything over to another woman? Wu Jie's eyes wavered. You're right that if I can recover, I can win his heart back. Once Xiao was sure Wu Jie no longer intended to take her life, she instructed her assistant to escort the woman downstairs for treatment. As for herself, she collapsed onto the ground. With her fear of heights, she could barely summon any strength at all. Suddenly, Li Jingyan appeared and scooped her into his arms. Their eyes met, neither willing to speak first. Then he suddenly shouted, You're terrified of heights, yet you still went up there. Do you have a death wish? Idiot. Back in the car, Xiao remained completely silent. Li Jingyan's expression hardened as he demanded, Is there nothing in this world worth holding on to? You'd risk your life for work? Deep down, Xiao knew they were from two different worlds and could never truly be together. And yet, even knowing his heart still belonged to that untouchable white moonlight, she couldn't stop herself from falling for him. The next morning, when Xiao arrived at the office, her assistant informed her that last night's rooftop incident had already been forcefully suppressed by Li Jingyan. Her emotions were complicated. She had wanted to bury this love deep in her heart, unwilling to owe Li Jingyan anything, but somehow her debts to him kept piling up. Torn, Xiao finally decided to invite him to dinner as a way to repay this favor. As soon as the call connected, Li Jingyan teased, Xiao, is this your way of asking me out on a date? Shirxia wasn't used to this version of him and quickly replied, "Do you have time or not? If you do, let's eat together after work, but if not, forget it." He dropped the joke and said lightly, "How could I refuse an invitation from my wife?" After hanging up, Shirxia's cheeks flushed slightly. She realized that Li Jingyan had been acting strangely lately. He would never have spoken like this before. Yet when he received Shirxia's text, a hint of disappointment flickered in Li Jingyan's heart, as if she didn't truly want to see him. Still, he drove his luxury car to the agreed location and reached out to her again. To her surprise, Shirxia felt a spark of happiness. It was her first time inviting him to dinner. Together, they walked side by side into the five-star restaurant. Over the meal, Shirxia finally voiced her thoughts. "Don't you think, if we weren't married, maybe we could have been friends?" Hearing that, Li Jingyan immediately grabbed her hand. With a serious expression, he said, "Shirxia, we will never just be friends. Do you understand? You are my wife. Why would I settle for being only your friend?" Shirxia replied cautiously, "But we're only in a contractual marriage. The way you're acting now, it feels like you're crossing the line." Li Jingyan released her hand and said coldly, "Because now I want our marriage to continue forever." With that, he turned and walked away. Shirxia wanted to ask what he really meant, but Li Jingyan said nothing and drove off. Guilt welled up inside her. So this dinner of thanks turned into a disaster after all. That I really am terrible at handling feelings. Later, while working overtime at the office, her mother-in-law suddenly called. She said she had prepared soup for them but found that Shirxia hadn't been home for a long time. She even complained that her son had been left alone for too long. Shirxia hurriedly explained that she had just been busy with work and promised to come home immediately. When she finally returned, her mother-in-law was already asleep. But Li Jingyan was still sitting on the sofa, quietly waiting for her. Shirxia said nothing. She simply pulled out her laptop and buried herself in work again. Watching her work so intently, Li Jingyan brought over the nourishing soup his mother had made. "Drink it before it gets cold. Move over, I'll help you." Shirxia felt she'd be more at ease finishing it herself, since the work absolutely had to be done tonight. Just as she was about to refuse, she caught the domineering look in his eyes. Startled, she quickly shifted aside to give him space. As she watched his fingers fly across the keyboard, she couldn't help but blurt out, "You type so fast." Li Jingyan shot her a glance, then leaned close to her ear and whispered, "I don't like that kind of compliment. What you should say is, 'Husband, you're amazing.'" Shirxia's face instantly turned crimson. She lowered her head and muttered, "Li Jingyan, be serious. Just focus on the work." "Yes, my dear wife," he teased with a smirk. "I never thought you could blush, but I always assumed your face only knew how to stay cold." Flustered, Shirxia grabbed a sheet of paper to hide her face. "I only blush for certain people." After 3 hours, Li Jingyan finally finished all the remaining tasks for her. When he turned back, he saw Shirxia fast asleep on the desk. He gently carried Shirxia in his arms and laid her down on the bed in the bedroom. Before leaving, he secretly pressed a kiss on her forehead. At dawn, Shirxia woke up from a nightmare. She had been chased by a monster, nearly losing her innocence in the dream. Reaching out, she felt the sheet beside her still warm. Realizing she had shared the bed with Li Jingyan last night, her cheeks flushed uncontrollably. In the living room, she spotted a note left on the desk. "Mom has already gone home, but I'll be working late tonight, don't wait up." Shirxia blushed again, thinking he really doesn't need to report his overtime to me. Just then, her stepmother Bai Shu called, reminding her, "Tomorrow is your father's birthday banquet. Remember to bring Li Jingyan with you." Shirxia found it laughable. "So-called reminding me to come home is just an excuse. Your real aim is to have Li Jingyan there." Exposed, Bai Shu immediately grew aggressive over the phone. "What's with that tone, Shirxia? If my daughter were still alive, do you really think a bastard child like you could ever dream of being Madame Li?" Shirxia couldn't be bothered to argue. She replied coldly, "If you can bring Shirxia back, I'll hand the position over to her immediately." With that, she hung up the call. But when it came to her father's birthday banquet, it really wouldn't look right if Li Jingyan didn't show up. Remembering how he had stayed up late to finish her work last night, Shirxia gathered her courage and dialed his number. Whether he came or not, she felt she should at least inform him. To her surprise, it was Lu Xinlin who answered. "Madam Li, Jingyan is busy with me right now. Do you need me to pass along a message?" Shirxia's nervous anticipation instantly collapsed. That he had kicked this woman out in front of her last time, Yet here she was again. Li Jingyan, you really are a liar. Shixia said coldly, tell him tomorrow is his father-in-law's birthday banquet. Whether he attends or not is up to him. Before Li Jingyan could respond, Lu Xinlin cut in. Jingyan's taking me out tomorrow. Looks like Madame Li will just have to attend the banquet alone. Furious, Shixia hung up, fuming. That liar does so much for working late. Clearly he's lost in another woman's arms. Little did she know, in the office Lu Xinlin had already deleted the call record. She was itching to watch Madame Li humiliated, arriving at the banquet alone. Just then, Li Jingyan returned from a meeting. The moment he saw Lu Xinlin in his office, he snapped with disgust, get out. But Lu Xinlin wasn't about to give up so easily. She claimed some old friends were throwing a party tonight and insisted on dragging him along. At that moment, his secretary came in to report that tomorrow was his father-in-law's birthday banquet, with many important guests expected. The news left Li Jingyan distracted for the rest of the evening. Lu Xinlin seized the chance to throw herself at him, purring, I can stay with you tonight. But Li Jingyan shoved her away coldly. Let go. Keep this up and I'll make sure you disappear for good. His mind was consumed by Shixia. Why hasn't she messaged me? Is she really planning to attend the banquet alone? Am I not even in her heart as her husband? The more he thought, the angrier he grew. He left the drinking party early. When others teased that he'd changed, Li Jingyan shot back, I'm a married man. That night, Shixia returned home late from working overtime. The moment she opened the door, a tall figure wrapped her in an embrace from behind. She instinctively resisted until the man's voice whispered, you can't even recognize your husband's voice. Heartless. Only then did Shixia realize it was Li Jingyan. She had thought he'd be with Lu Xinlin all night, but instead he pinned her against the wall, demanding, this is my home. Why wouldn't I come back? Still fuming, Shixia shoved him away. If you're drunk, go find another woman to take care of you. Don't come here and cause trouble with me. But Li Jingyan misunderstood, thinking she truly wanted him to find another woman. He snapped, so you'd really prefer I go to someone else? Don't you have anything you want to say to me? Completely unaware of the day's earlier drama. Before Shixia could answer, he pressed his lips against hers. The sudden kiss sent another tremor through Shixia's heart. When he finally let go, he dragged her straight into the bedroom, intent on forcing himself on her. Yet the thought that he might have just come from another woman's bed filled Shixia with humiliation. Tears of grievance streamed uncontrollably down her face. Seeing her sobbing, Li Jingyan assumed she despised him. Reluctant to force her, he pulled away, ending the encounter. Shixia was left trembling, curled up on the bed, crying alone. The next morning, she stared at her haggard reflection in the mirror, cursing herself for being so weak. Determined to regain her composure, she dressed carefully and headed to her father's birthday banquet. The moment she arrived, her stepmother Bai Shu hurried over to greet her. Seeing Shixia arrive alone, Bai Shu immediately lashed out. Shixia, you're useless. You can't even bring a man with you. But Shixia didn't admit defeat. Instead, she leaned in and whispered, Mother, you might want to speak louder. That way the entire Shi family can share the embarrassment. Of course, even without Bai Shu's words, there were plenty of gossip-hungry socialites at the banquet. A group of wealthy young ladies gathered around, asking mockingly, Shixia, where's your husband? On such an important day, it'd be improper if he didn't show. Everyone was waiting to see her humiliated, but Shixia calmly replied, Today is my father's birthday. Whether Li Jingyan comes or not doesn't matter. Then her so-called best friend poured fuel on the fire. Funny, I saw Li Jingyan at a bar last night. Shixia was about to retort, Seems you know my husband better than I do. Just then, a familiar voice cut through the air. Who is it that knows me better than my wife? Li Jingyan himself had arrived. He strode straight to Shixia's side, asking pointedly, Why didn't you wait for me? Coming here alone? His presence instantly shattered the rumors of marital discord. Shixia couldn't help but wonder, why did Li Jingyan show up after all? But Li Jingyan couldn't take his eyes off Shixia's outfit. Was it really necessary to dress so revealingly for a birthday banquet? Doesn't she realize she's a married woman? In a rare move, he slipped his jacket over her shoulders, then addressed the crowd. I upset my wife last night, and I hope she'll forgive me, seeing how hard I'm trying to make it up to her. Shixia turned her head away in disgust. That so-called devoted husband act might have fooled others for years, but she was done falling for it. At that moment her father approached with Bai Shu by his side. In front of Li Jingyan, Bai Shu put on her warm, motherly facade, even saying cheerfully, "Bring Shixiao home more often when you're free." Only Shixiao knew the venom hidden beneath that smile. Midway through their polite chatter, Bai Shu suddenly tugged Shixiao into a quiet corner and shoved a contract into her hands. It turned out she was eyeing the Li family's business empire. Bai Shu said sweetly, "Since Li Jingyan loves you so much, this won't be a problem." But in truth she never cared how Shixiao felt being used as a tool. She even sneered, "Li Jingyan doesn't really love you and I don't have the power to beg anyone else for help." Without hesitation Shixiao tore the contract in half and threw the pieces in her face. Bai Shu was completely enraged. Gnashing her teeth, she raised her hand to slap Shixiao. But before the blow could land, a strong hand caught her wrist midair. She turned in shock. It was Li Jingyan. The moment Shixiao saw him, she didn't say a word. She simply turned and walked away. Li Jingyan already knew plenty about the Shi family. Watching Shixiao's sorrowful figure, he finally began to understand where her pain truly came from. After issuing a cold warning to Bai Shu, he strode quickly out of the hall to chase after Shixiao. Bai Shu hadn't expected Shixiao to matter so much to him. She clenched her fists, realizing that crossing Shixiao could bring consequences she couldn't afford. Outside, tears streamed uncontrollably down Shixiao's face. "So it's true. I'm nothing more than a tool for their wealth and power." Suddenly, a familiar voice called from behind her. "Stop crying. You look ugly when you cry." Li Jingyan gently wiped the tears from her eyes, his voice softening as he asked, "Was that argument just now, because of me?" At that moment, Shixiao's tears could no longer be held back. All the grievances in her heart burst out at once. Li Jingyan immediately pulled her into his arms, his broad chest giving her a sense of safety. Once her emotions had calmed a little, Shixiao whispered, "Li Jing, take me home." Watching his devastated wife, clearly a gentle woman forcing herself to appear unbreakable, he thought she must be so exhausted. By the time they arrived home, Shixiao had already fallen fast asleep in the car. Li Jingyan carefully carried her inside. He gently laid her down on the bed and tucked the blanket around her. Half asleep, Shixiao murmured, "Are we home?" With a tender smile, Li Jingyan replied, "Yes, we're home. Don't think about anything else. Sleep well, everything will be better when you wake up." Shixiao gave a faint nod, then closed her eyes, drifting off with rare contentment. The morning sunlight spilled across her face. Stretching her arms, she felt more rested than she had in a long time. But as she stepped out to wash up, she froze in shock. Li Jingyan was hunched over at the door, his whole body trembling. Alarmed, Shixiao rushed forward to support him, only to realize his old stomach ailment had flared up again. With Shixiao's support, Li Jingyan finally managed to sit on the sofa. She quickly searched the house for stomach medicine and helped him take it. He then lay his head on her lap, refusing to get up, insisting, "Resting like this will help me recover faster." Out of consideration for his condition, Shixiao let it slide, only for him to grow bolder, his hands wandering as he demanded a kiss. When she refused, he wrapped his arms around her neck and stole a kiss anyway, looking nothing like a sick man at all. Flustered, Shixiao jumped up, wiped her lips, cheeks burning, and quickly muttered that she'd go make porridge. Watching her shy, flustered reaction, Li Jingyan smirked like a mischievous child who'd gotten his way. "So, Shixiao really can't resist me when I play the weak patient." Soon Shixiao returned with freshly cooked porridge. But Li Jingyan pouted, claiming he had no strength left and wanted her to feed him. Shixiao sighed helplessly. "Funny, you had plenty of strength when you forced that kiss. Now suddenly you're too weak?" In the end, she sat down and spoon-fed him, reminding him softly, "You need to eat on time and take care of your stomach." Li Jingyan replied carelessly, "It doesn't matter. You'll always be by my side anyway." Lowering her head, Shixiao whispered, "You know our relationship better than anyone. I can't stay with you forever. One day, you'll meet someone you truly love. She'll be the one to stay by your side." Before Shixiao could finish, Li Jingyan suddenly seized her wrist, demanding with raw emotion, "Shixiao, are you so certain the one I love isn't you?" His grip was so strong it hurt. Nothing like a sick man at all. So this was him pretending to be weak, playing the wolf in sheep's clothing. Feeling guilty, Li Jingyan immediately collapsed to the floor, groaning, "I'm not better yet, it hurts." His pathetic acting left Shirxia completely speechless. The next day at the office, her assistant came asking for the design drafts. But after being stuck with Li Jingyan all day yesterday, she hadn't had time to finish them. Frustrated, Shirxia admitted, "It's not done yet. Come back tomorrow at this time." Sitting at her desk, she stared helplessly at the thick stack of documents, delayed all because of Li Jingyan's sudden illness. She wondered if he was feeling any better now. Taking out her phone, she hesitated endlessly about whether to message him. After what felt like forever, she finally pressed send. The moment she did, Shirxia couldn't help laughing at herself. Her conflicted expression was almost comical. Suddenly, a coworker burst through the door in a panic, shouting that a crowd had gathered downstairs causing trouble. They were complaining that the new facial cleanser was overpriced, claiming a domestic brand wasn't worth the cost. At this point, it was clear the matter wouldn't be resolved easily. Shirxia immediately ordered the detailed product data to be brought to her. After carefully reviewing it, she realized these people didn't look like ordinary consumers at all. They were most likely hired plants sent by rival companies. But regardless of who they were, this PR crisis had to be dealt with quickly. Outside the company, a massive crowd had already gathered, with reporters from every major outlet flocking to the scene. Yet Shirxia faced them without fear, stepping directly into the crowd. With a firm, righteous voice, she declared, "I am the director of Shiren Pearl, that I will personally answer all of your questions about this facial cleanser in detail." No sooner had she spoken than the young man leading the protest began heckling, deliberately stirring the crowd. Anyone could see he wasn't genuine. Still, Shirxia responded responsibly, "Our product is not expensive. Its effectiveness fully justifies the price. Domestic does not mean cheap. We've always insisted on using the finest ingredients." But no matter how sincere her explanation, there were always people jumping out to cast doubt. Thinking quickly, Shirxia decided that words alone wouldn't be enough. She would prove it with real results. Scanning the crowd, she singled out a well-known female reporter and invited her to try the product on the spot. Under Shirxia's careful demonstration, the reporter's skin instantly appeared smoother and more elastic. Even the tightness from her sensitive skin vanished completely, the effect undeniable. With the reporter's enthusiastic endorsement, what had started as a PR crisis flipped into a live product showcase. The crowd's admiration for Shirxia grew stronger by the minute. Still, the raw material costs were undeniably high. Shirxia immediately instructed her assistant to call a market department meeting that afternoon. Once everything was arranged, a colleague came to inform her. Bai Shu was waiting in her office. A sudden sense of danger pricked at her heart. Puzzled but cautious, Shirxia pushed open the office door, only for a book to come flying straight at her, striking her forehead. Shirxia frowned, closed the door and snapped, "Are you insane? Throwing a tantrum like this in the company? Do you want everyone to laugh at us?" But the shameless Bai Shu twisted the truth, shouting, "Shirxia, you're useless. Look at all the chaos since you joined. Suicides, product issues, it's endless." Shirxia shot back coldly, "If you knew people were causing trouble, why didn't you handle it yourself? Why hide in my office instead?" Bai Shu only grew nastier. "You, the daughter of a mistress, how dare you strut around here? You caused the mess and expect others to clean it up." Shirxia had no desire to waste another second on her. She opened the door and motioned for her to leave. The less Shirxia cared, the more furious Bai Shu became. "I'm your father's wife, if it weren't for me." Before she could finish, Shirxia's expression turned dark. "But you are not my mother." Just then, a familiar voice came from behind. "Xia." The moment Li Jingyan appeared, Bai Shu's attitude flipped instantly. But Li Jingyan knew her true face all too well. Without a word, he grabbed Shirxia's hand and led her away. That single gesture filled her with an overwhelming sense of safety. Once in the car, Li Jingyan carefully pressed a cold compress against her forehead. Still puzzled by what had just happened, Li Jingyan asked, "Ever since your father's birthday banquet, I've felt Bai Shu doesn't treat you like a mother treats her daughter. Why is that?" With things already laid bare, Shirxia no longer hid the truth. "Sure, Mingqing is my father, but Bai Shu isn't my mother. My biological mother passed away long ago." Li Jingyan finally understood. Shirxia's resistance to intimacy all stemmed from her complicated past. Just as Shirxia finished speaking and was about to get out of the car, Li Jingyan suddenly grabbed her arm, his voice sincere. No matter what your status is in the Shur family, you are my wife." Hearing his heartfelt words, Shurxia couldn't help but smile. For the first time in a long while, her heart was filled with warmth and happiness. After seeing him off, and before she even reached her office, Shurxia received a call from Lu Xinlin. "Shurxia, 2 o'clock at Left Bank Cafe. I need to talk to you about Jingyan." Without waiting for a reply, Lu Xinlin hung up. The brazen tone left Shurxia momentarily stunned, but also curious about what game this woman was playing. At exactly 2 in the afternoon, Shurxia arrived at the cafe. To her surprise, the moment they met, Lu Xinlin slapped a bank card onto the table, telling her to leave Li Jingyan. Shurxia stared at her like she was an idiot. Wasn't this the kind of line the real wife usually says to the mistress? How did it get reversed in my case? Shurxia took the bank card, twirling it with a mocking smile. "Miss Lu, is this tens of thousands or a few million? Use your brain. The status of MRS.Li is worth far more than this. Do you really think I'd give up Li Jingyan for pocket change?" True to her twisted logic, Lu Xinlin climbed onto the moral high ground, accusing Shurxia of being with Li Jingyan only for money. With her righteous tone, one might almost mistake her for the real wife. Shurxia had no intention of lowering herself further. She stood, eyes sharp as she glared at Lu Xinlin, her voice cold. "Don't be too greedy." Just as Shurxia turned to leave, Lu Xinlin suddenly grabbed her arm. Before Shurxia could react, the woman flung herself down the stairs. Shurxia instinctively reached out to catch her. But at that very moment, a swarm of reporters rushed in, firing off sharp, relentless questions, surrounding Shurxia from all sides. She knew it was one of Lu Xinlin's traps, but under the barrage of questions she still felt momentarily overwhelmed. Playing the victim, Lu Xinlin whimpered, "I don't even know what I did wrong, she just pushed me down the stairs." With her pitiful act, Shurxia was instantly painted as a vicious, cruel woman. Just as the crowd's questions closed in on her, a commanding voice thundered, "Move!" Li Jingyan forced his way through, shoving people aside and pulling Shurxia into his arms. The moment she saw him, Shurxia's fear melted away, replaced by a profound sense of relief. Almost immediately, reporters swarmed again, pressing Li Jingyan. "Why are you here? Are you trying to cover for your wife?" But Li Jingyan cut them off coldly. "I have no obligation to answer your questions. If you're real reporters, show me your press IDs. If you can't, I'll call the police right now." The ringleaders froze on the spot. Knowing Li Jingyan's ruthless reputation, none of them dared push further. As he ordered his men to take Lu Xinlin to the hospital, a dark pool of blood on the floor caught his eye. He had witnessed the entire fall himself. Her stomach hadn't taken any impact, so how could there be that much blood? Realizing she was about to be exposed, Lu Xinlin fumbled for an excuse. But Li Jingyan wasn't about to be fooled. He snatched a blood bag from her, exposing the whole stunt as a self-directed farce. The onlookers finally understood, murmuring among themselves and pointing fingers at her. What an actress! That performance deserves an Oscar. Not only did she interfere in someone else's marriage, she even tried to frame the real wife. Embarrassed, Lu Xinlin had no choice but to feign unconsciousness. Once everything had settled, Li Jingyan led Shurxia out of the cafe. Still, she couldn't help but wonder. Why had he shown up right on time? Lost in thought, Shurxia didn't notice him stop walking and stumbled straight into his arms. Li Jingyan explained softly, "On the way back, I suddenly remembered I hadn't applied your medicine, so I came here to bring it to you. But you just had to wander off instead of staying put at the office. I had to ask around to track you down." As he spoke, he carefully applied the medicine for Shurxia himself, every movement gentle and attentive. The two of them chatted casually as they walked back toward the company, the atmosphere between them growing more and more like that of a real married couple. Back in her office, Shurxia stretched lazily and gazed at the moonlight outside. What a chaotic birthday this turned out to be. But with only 2 hours left, surely nothing else could happen tonight. Suddenly, the roar of an engine echoed outside. Through the window, she spotted a super limited edition sports car pulling up downstairs. But before she could get a closer look, her phone rang. Seeing Li Jingyan's name, she was stunned. When she answered, he simply said, "Come down." That's when it clicked. The luxury car belonged to him. As she stepped outside, she found Li Jingyan standing beside the car, exuding cool confidence. The moment he saw her, he revealed 999 roses from behind him and held them out. "Happy birthday, Sherxiao." Sherxiao was utterly stunned. She had never expected Li Jingyan to even know her birthday. The sudden gesture overwhelmed Sherxiao, especially after such a turbulent day full of twists and unexpected turns. Her heart was deeply moved. To thank the domineering Xiao, she rose on tiptoe and kissed him first. But Li Jingyan wasn't satisfied. He wrapped his arm tightly around her waist and kissed her passionately in the middle of the busy street, not letting go for half an hour. After a night of comfort, Sherxiao arrived at the office the next morning glowing, her complexion radiant and her spirits high. Her assistant rushed over excitedly. "Director Shi Feng Qixing was arrested today. Apparently, someone had reported his company for falsifying materials, and all their quality checks had failed." Sherxiao couldn't hide her satisfaction. "Serves him right," she muttered, though she quickly reminded herself she needed to find new suppliers fast. Before she could act, the general manager came over and reassured her, "No need to worry. This morning a Japanese supplier, SG, offered to cooperate with us. Their headquarters will be here soon to sign the contract." Holding the contract in her hands, Sherxiao felt as if she were floating. Good news just kept coming her way. Soon, Sherxiao signed the contract with SG's representatives, though she couldn't help but wonder why SG had suddenly taken the initiative to cooperate with Shirun. The staff only gave her some polished, diplomatic answers, never the explanation she truly wanted. Just after seeing them off, Sherxiao received a call from Li Jingyan. He asked her to accompany him to a banquet that evening. It was the first time he had ever invited her as his partner, and to her surprise, she actually felt a flicker of anticipation. After yesterday's chaos, today's streak of good fortune had her in high spirits. Hugging her assistant excitedly, she laughed that she'd treat her to a full eat-and-shop spree later. That evening, after hours of careful preparation, Sherxiao appeared at the banquet in full glamour. The moment she entered, heads turned. The striking couple instantly became the center of attention. Sherxiao was more than satisfied with her carefully chosen gown and makeup. In her moment of pride, however, she completely forgot it was the first day of her period. After downing a glass of wine, a sharp pain struck her abdomen, nearly causing her to faint. She would have fallen if not for someone catching her. Looking up to thank them, she was shocked to see it was her senior, Jiang Yuqing. Before they could exchange words, Li Jingyan pulled her firmly into his arms, jealousy burning in his eyes as he demanded to know who Jiang Yuqing was. Forced by his intense possessiveness, Sherxiao hurried to introduce them, though by now she was drenched in sweat, trembling from the pain. Both men asked at the same time what was wrong with Sherxiao. She thanked her senior first, then asked Li Jingyan to help her to a seat. Her complexion grew paler by the minute, her whole body trembling with cold. Yet, not wanting to delay Li Jingyan's meeting with business partners at the banquet, Sherxiao forced herself to endure and only asked him to bring her some hot water. Just then, the ballroom erupted. Someone shouted, "The superstar Shinjia is here." Sherxiao's eyes widened in shock. Shinjia, Li Jingyan's first love. She had never expected to see her here. But the moment Li Jingyan heard Shinjia's name, he abandoned Sherxiao's side without hesitation and strode directly toward her. Watching his decisive back, Sherxiao finally understood. In his heart there had only ever been Shinjia. Jiang Yuqing, who had been quietly watching over Sherxiao, boiled with anger at the sight of Li Jingyan ignoring her suffering just to fawn over Shinjia. Without caring about whispers or stares, he stepped forward and swept the frail Sherxiao into his arms. Under the stunned gazes of the crowd, Jiang Yuqing carried her out of the banquet hall, placed her in his car and sped toward the hospital. After the doctor's initial treatment, Sherxiao began to recover. Holding the report, Jiang Yuqing relayed the doctor's instructions to her. Sherxiao already knew she shouldn't drink cold water or alcohol during her period, but in her excitement tonight she had downed a glass before remembering. Seeing that her condition was stable, Jiang Yuqing drove her home to rest. Halfway there, the car was silent. Sherxiao kept her eyes fixed on the window, while Jiang Yuqing stole glances at her, emotions churning. He couldn't stop replaying the details from the medical report, his feelings tangled. Perhaps sensing his gaze, Sherxiao quickly noticed. Out of politeness, she broke the silence. "Senior, how much was the checkup today? I'll transfer it to you later." Jiang Yuqing chuckled. She was still the same, always unwilling to owe anyone a favor. The car rolled to a stop at the villa gates. Looking at Sherxiao's forced composure, Jiang Yuqing couldn't help his anger toward Li Jingyan for what had happened that night. Yet Shirxiao remained surprisingly calm. Xinjia is back. With her here, it's understandable Li Jingyan would react that way. Her words were light, almost indifferent. But to Jiang Yuqing it felt unbearably tragic that I end families like theirs. A woman in Shirxia's position was truly the most pitiful. Jiang Yuqing instinctively reached out and held Shirxia's hand. He asked softly if she had ever thought about divorce. But for Shirxia, this marriage had never been hers to decide. From the very beginning, the power was out of her hands. She quickly pulled her hand back, stepped out of the car, and refused to continue the conversation. Because of their complicated past, Shirxia was determined to keep her distance from him. Yet after seeing her medical report marked no sexual activity, Jiang Yuqing resolved to take his chance. His feelings for her had never changed. He shouted his confession from the car, but Shirxia didn't look back, walking straight into the house. Inside, the dark, empty rooms filled her with loneliness. But the moment she flicked on the lights, she nearly jumped out of her skin. Li Jingyan was sitting on the sofa, waiting. Before she could recover, his cold voice cut through the air, demanding to know where she had been. The accusation made her flare with anger. She slammed the medicine down on the table. "I wasn't feeling well. Jiang Yuqing took me to the hospital," she snapped. Noticing the edge in Shirxia's tone, Li Jingyan recalled what had happened earlier that night. Guilt flickered across his face as he quickly asked if she was feeling any better, offering to pour her a glass of hot water. But before he could finish, his phone rang. The caller ID showed Xinjia, his first love. Without hesitation, he answered. Upon hearing she was in trouble, Li Jingyan dropped everything, grabbed his coat, and rushed out the door. The loud bang of the door closing crushed the last shred of hope in Shirxia's heart. Xinjia is back, that it's time I step aside. Maybe divorce really is the best ending for us. The thought cut through her like a blade. The next morning, still groggy, Shirxia opened her bedroom door only to find Li Jingyan hadn't gone to the office. Instead, he was in the kitchen making breakfast. When he saw her, he urged her to eat, insisting he would personally drive her to work. Guilt still lingered in his eyes from last night. But Shirxia had spent the whole night thinking. Her mind was set. Once the contract expired, she would leave him for good. Politely, she turned down his offer. Over breakfast, Li Jingyan tried to make amends, apologizing for his actions the night before. But Shirxia wasn't about to take it to heart. She lifted her glass calmly, congratulating Li Jingyan on his first love's return, telling him to cherish it well. The calmer and more indifferent she appeared, the more uneasy and bitter Li Jingyan felt inside. As soon as Shirxia stepped outside, she saw Jiang Yuqing waiting by the door, opening the car for her and offering to drive her to work. This time she didn't bother to refuse. With her own car still at the company, she accepted his offer and got in. Unfortunately, the scene was caught by Li Jingyan. He immediately assumed this was the real reason she hadn't let him drive her earlier. Furious, he yanked the curtains shut, his chest seething with anger. Just as he sat down, his phone rang again, an early call from Wuyo. Curious, Shirxia answered, only to hear Wuyo shouting through the receiver. "Shirxia, I ran into a creep. I'm at Linen Hospital, come save me." Hanging up, Shirxia rushed out at full speed, racing to Linen Hospital. When she finally saw Wuyo, she immediately ordered a full checkup, only relaxing once she confirmed her friend was fine. That's when Wuyo sheepishly admitted. The man in the hat behind her had a cold and needed an injection, but claimed he was terrified of needles, so she had no choice but to take it for him. Hearing this, Shirxia burst out laughing. Of course. That's exactly the kind of reckless, big-hearted stunt Wuyo would pull. At that moment, Wuyo was facing a formal complaint from the man in the hat. After struggling through her internship, today was her very first official day. If she got reported now, everything would be ruined. Shirxia quickly comforted her big-hearted friend and stepped forward herself, ready to smooth things over with her silver tongue. But just as she greeted the man, he lifted his head, his eyes locking onto her, staring intently. Then he suddenly shot up to his feet, calling her name with excitement. Shirxia froze, she clearly didn't recognize him. The man quickly jogged her memory. "I'm Li Jingyang. We graduated from the same university. Back in my freshman year, I joined the student union, and you were the one who interviewed me. Don't tell me I was that forgettable?" Shirxia racked her brain, pulling up his profile in her mind. At last she remembered. He was the art department's campus heartthrob, her junior, Lee Jingyang. With that connection, things suddenly became much easier. She explained she was Wuyo's friend and asked Lee Jingyang to let the matter slide for her sake. And since it was his goddess making the request, Lee Jingyang naturally couldn't refuse. Shirxia hadn't expected him to agree so readily. All the arguments she had carefully prepared were instantly left unsaid. Though the misunderstanding was cleared, Wuyo and Lee Jingyang still bickered non-stop like sworn enemies. If not for Shirxia's constant mediation, the two would have started an outright fight. Just as she was busy calming them down, her phone suddenly rang. It was Li Jingyan, giving her new instructions, which immediately ruined her plan to treat the two-inch enemies to a meal. As Shirxia was leaving, Li Jingyang suddenly grabbed her arm. "Wait, goddess-senpai, can you give me your contact? I promise I won't bother you." Looking at his starry-eyed expression, Shirxia couldn't help doubting his so-called promise. After leaving Wuyo, Shirxia returned to her office building, only to spot Li Jingyan by his car, head lowered, scrolling on his phone. The moment he saw her, the two of them got into the car and drove toward the Li family estate. Today, the second young master was returning from abroad, and her mother-in-law had asked them to join the family dinner. The moment they arrived at the Li family estate, Li Jingyan suddenly pulled Shirxia tightly into his arms. The intimate gesture made her uncomfortable, yet the more she struggled, the tighter his hold became. With no way out, she reluctantly let him lead her inside. As soon as they entered, her mother-in-law greeted them warmly and called for Li Jingyang to come meet his sister-in-law. When Li Jingyang saw Shirxia, he froze in shock. His longtime goddess had become his brother's wife. Regret washed over him that he bitterly wished he hadn't gone to the U.S. For that choice had cost him the chance to be with her. Sensing her younger son's strange reaction, the mother looked puzzled and quickly explained that Shirxia was his senior back in school. Li Jingyang immediately echoed the explanation, admitting Shirxia was the elegant senior he had often mentioned. Now astonishingly, she was his sister-in-law. The three of them chatted and laughed together, leaving Li Jingyan awkwardly sidelined. Still, Li Jingyan understood one thing all too clearly. His younger brother's secret crush had always been Shirxia. From the moment they walked in, Shirxia and Li Jingyang chatted non-stop, their laughter echoing through the hall. When the topic shifted to work, they realized, by coincidence, that the skincare brand Li Jingyang endorsed was actually Shirxia's company's product. The two dove even deeper into discussion. Li Jingyang even grew bold enough to touch her casually, making Li Jingyan grind his teeth, throwing in sarcastic comments from the side. With an upcoming concert at his university next week, Li Jingyang invited Shirxia to attend. Without hesitation, she agreed. At that moment, their mother called everyone to dinner. But Li Jingyan turned away with a dark expression and headed straight for the bedroom. Being ignored left him fuming. He was so angry he felt full already, no appetite left for food. Seeing him leave, his mother grew worried about his recurring stomach issues and asked Shirxia to bring him the chicken soup she had specially prepared. Shirxia promised firmly she would make sure he finished every drop. Carrying the soup to the study, she set it down and explained that his mother was worried about his health and insisted he drink it all. Just as she turned to leave, Li Jingyan suddenly called out, his voice heavy, asking how exactly she and Li Jingyang knew each other. At that, Shirxia chuckled lightly, brushing it off as nothing more than a school acquaintance. But Li Jingyan's jealousy flared instantly. Didn't she realize Li Jingyang had feelings for her? Shirxia went on to recall the very first time they met. She had seen him standing in the rain, so she handed him her umbrella and shared one with a friend to return to the dorm. Hearing this, Li Jingyan's suspicion was confirmed. Shirxia was indeed the girl his younger brother had treasured all along. Jealousy surged through him like a storm. Is this how you treat other men too? First a senior, now a junior. Shirxia, remember, you are my wife. Keep your distance from them. With that, he sulked like a scorned lover, slumping into his chair and ordering her to take the soup away. Shirxia, too tired to argue with this unreasonable man, simply lifted the bowl and downed the chicken soup herself. Watching his soup disappear, Li Jingyan snapped. He grabbed her by the waist, demanding why she had drunk his soup. Before she could answer, he shamelessly pulled her into a deep, lingering French kiss that lasted half an hour. Shirxia nearly suffocated, and when he finally let her go, he even had the audacity to complain she didn't know how to kiss, leaving her frantically wiping her lips in anger. Satisfied after getting his way, Li Jingyan smirked. Don't blame me. It was my mom's chicken soup. I had to taste it too, right? Xiexia was speechless at such shameless reasoning. She steadied her racing heartbeat and bolted out of the study. Gasping for breath at the top of the stairs, she cursed inwardly. That bastard Li Jingyan always catching me off guard. Since Xiexia had been upstairs too long, her mother-in-law was just about to check on her, only to spot her zoning out at the stairwell and call her name. Startled, Xiexia slipped, thud, 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 and tumbled all the way down the stairs. Her sudden scream drew everyone's attention as they rushed over. Li Jingyang was the first to reach her and bent down to lift her up. But Li Jingyan stormed out of the study, blocking him. She's my woman. I'll take care of her myself. Watching her two sons bristle over Xiexia, their mother could only rub her temples in exasperation. On the way to the hospital, Xiexia had already contacted Wu You. Seeing her swollen ankle, Wu You frowned in distress and said it needed to be reset immediately. But the moment her hand touched Xiaxia's ankle, Xiexia cried out in pain. Left with no choice, Wu You told Li Jingyan to hold Xiexia tightly from behind so she wouldn't thrash around. With her head resting against Li Jingyan's chest, Xiexia felt the strength of his body and the steady thump of his heartbeat. Her thoughts drifted uncontrollably. Before she could linger in the moment, Wu You clapped her hands and announced the treatment was done. Catching sight of Xiaxia's flushed cheeks, Wu You teased, "Looks like a handsome guy works better than anesthesia. Lying in his arms, you don't even feel the pain, do you?" Xiexia blushed furiously, bowing her head as if she hadn't heard a thing. Just then Li's mother called, asking about Xiaxia's injury. Li Jingyan quickly assured her it was nothing serious and promised to personally bring Xiexia home to recover. Knowing her son had never lifted a finger for chores, Li's mother was skeptical, but seeing his determination she had no choice but to agree. After ending the call, she turned to Li Jingyang. From all that had happened tonight, it was obvious. The girl he'd liked back in college was none other than Xiexia. She sternly reminded him to know his place. Xiexia was now his sister-in-law and proper distance had to be maintained. Though Li Jingyang's heart ached, reality was reality. He could only bury that youthful affection deep inside. Once he gave his word, Li's mother still felt uneasy. "I don't trust your brother to take care of her properly. I made some bone soup. Take it over to her." Li Jingyang, thrilled by the opportunity, agreed without hesitation. At that moment, the couple shared an oddly tender scene. Li Jingyan was giving Xiexia a foot massage. The mighty billionaire Xiao was now carefully kneading his little wife's swollen ankle. Having never let a man touch her feet before, Xiexia flushed scarlet, her whole body burning with heat. Seeing his questioning look, she quickly muttered that she was just sleepy and urged him to finish up. After 15 minutes, the swelling in her ankle eased noticeably, yet Li Jingyan suddenly stood and shamelessly demanded payment. Xiexia blinked in confusion, only for him to cup her face with a wicked grin, leaning in for a kiss. She resisted in a panic, accidentally jarring her injured ankle again. Realizing he couldn't push further for now, Li Jingyan wasn't in a rush. Instead, he declared he'd take a shower first, then give her a full-body checkup later. The sound of running water from the bathroom made Xiaxia's imagination run wild, her heartbeat quickening. Suddenly the doorbell rang. Curious, Xiexia opened the door and found Li Jingyang standing there. Seeing she was all right, he visibly relaxed. Handing her a container of bone soup, he said warmly, "Mom made this. Said bone heals bone. I'll set it down on the table for you." Back in the living room, Xiaxia's phone suddenly rang from the bedroom. Since she couldn't move easily, she asked Li Jingyang to fetch it for her. But just as he reached the door, he ran straight into Li Jingyan, fresh out of the shower. Confronted by his brother's suspicious look, Li Jingyang quickly explained he was only delivering soup on their mother's orders. Seeing Li Jingyan's cold indifference, Li Jingyang didn't linger. After handing the phone to Xiexia, he smiled, "I'll bring you more chicken soup tomorrow," and left. Outside the villa, he looked up at the brightly lit windows, a flicker of triumph in his chest. From what he saw while retrieving her phone, it seemed his brother and Xiexia weren't even sharing the same bedroom. Their marriage wasn't as harmonious as it looked. The thought made Li Jingyang secretly hopeful. Perhaps he still had a chance. After Li Jingyang's departure, Li Jingyan lingered in Xiaxia's room, the silence between them thick with awkwardness. Feeling drowsy, Xiao finally said she needed a shower and told him to get some rest. But Li Jingyan, using her injury as an excuse, offered to help bathe her instead. Terrified, Xiao bolted for the bathroom and slammed the door shut. Barely minutes after Xiao shut the bathroom door, a sharp scream rang out. Without hesitation, Li Jingyan kicked the door open. He found her collapsed on the floor, trembling from the pain, and rushed to lift her up. Seeing her clutching her wrist, he blurted out, "Don't tell me you broke your arm too?" His words turned out prophetic. After Weio's examination, Xiao had indeed fractured her wrist. Furious, she cursed him for jinxing her. 2 fractures in one day, both hand and foot. Even Weio was dumbfounded by such a rare case. Meanwhile, back at the Li family estate, Li Jingyang reported what he had observed. Their mother was stunned. They seemed fine just yesterday. Could it be that Xiao is pregnant? But Li Jingyang insisted firmly, saying his brother and Xiao didn't act like a real couple at all. Maybe their marriage was just for show. Before he could finish, the phone rang suddenly. On answering, their mother learned Xiao had broken her wrist as well. She snapped in frustration. If Jingyan keeps taking care of her like this, Xiao might not survive at all. Hearing of her injury, Li Jingyang panicked, his face filled with worry. Their mother sighed heavily, warning him not to reveal the truth about them sleeping separately, and to keep his distance from Xiao. His mother's stance instantly crushed the faint hope in Li Jingyang's heart. Even if his brother's marriage with Xiao was fake, their mother would never allow him to be with her. The next morning, after a sleepless night of work, Li Jingyan stepped into his office only to find Xinjia already waiting inside. The moment she saw him, her eyes welled up with tears as she pleaded for help. But Li Jingyan had long since seen through his first love. Xinjia was pregnant now and with a useless husband. Her sudden return to him could only mean one thing: she wanted him to take the blame. To his disgust, Xinjia shamelessly clasped his hand. She confessed she never wanted to marry Louis and that he was unfit to be a father. By now, even a fool would have understood her intentions. And Li Jingyan, a man hardened by the business world, would never play the scapegoat. He turned toward the window, feigning calm as he told her to go home and rest. Realizing he wouldn't give in, Xinjia slipped into full drama queen mode, clutching her stomach as she collapsed to the floor, trembling. Seeing her pale face covered in cold sweat, Li Jingyan's expression shifted. Without another word, he scooped her up and rushed toward the hospital. Just as Li Jingyan was searching for a consultation room, he unexpectedly ran into Lu Xinlin. She immediately whipped out her phone, snapping shot after shot of him carrying Xinjia. When her companion gave her a puzzled look, Lu Xinlin explained smugly, "That was my former sponsor. Looks like he's found himself a new flame." Seeing her excitement, the companion asked in confusion, "Shouldn't you be angry? Why do you look so happy?" Lu Xinlin sneered, "These photos aren't for me to sulk over. I'm sending them straight to his wife. That woman thinks she's won? Without me, Li Jingyan will still end up with another woman." Meanwhile, Xiao was enjoying a delicate breakfast when her phone suddenly buzzed on the table. The moment she opened it, the photos on the screen froze her mind into a complete blank.